And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head the day. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood.
Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Now give me your boom,
He is Jalen versus everybody.
What up, Doc?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in. Center stage on the mic.
And we putting it on wax. It's the new style.
We're Jalen Jacoby. What are we
We're going to be by what they want.
Jalen Jacoby back. It's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you without a dope pod to step to. Before we get started, we just want to thank you guys.
Thank you
For staying with us. We've got some special guests coming later in the week.
Dope.
We've got some announcements. We've got some improvements. But we didn't have a show on Friday, so I want to start just with some brief draft reaction. It feels like the draft was 3 weeks ago because it's 2018. The news cycle moves that fast. But I'm going to start with this. The Hawks are going to regret trading Luka Doncic.
You think so?
For Trae Young.
Wow.
And a pick. A protected first-round pick in Trae Young. I think Luka Doncic is going to be a star. And he's a once-in-a-while player. And the idea that they're going to walk away with Trae Young instead of Luka Doncic, to me, Trae Young is a gamble. Luka Doncic is a sure thing.
You know, this is the classic example of known versus unknown.
I'll take known every day.
Basically, and it shows why it's going to be important eventually for American-born players to actually be able to play professional a lot earlier than age 20 that they're required to do right now. Because Luka Doncic has been playing pro. Luka Doncic has been, 1 year removed from the high school. But Luka Doncic has been playing pro since he was 13. Mm-hmm. He's been his craft. He's been doing it for a living. And I understand that probably does give you some edge, but there are a lot of players internationally doing that. So he represents the unknown commodity. Because as many
Luka?
People, yeah.
I'm going the other way. I'm saying he's the known commodity.
When I say unknown commodity, meaning 95% of individuals that are speaking about him play haven't seen him in person.
Sure.
No.
Like, it's one thing to see highlights. It's another thing to actually see somebody in person. Like, see their actual height, see their actual build, see how their actual court generalship happens when they're out there on the floor. Like, just things that you can't see, you know, when you're watching on TV. And he was overseas. Versus Trae Young was must-see TV and the reason why I watched college basketball this year, other than the Wolverines going to the NCAA finals. Like, he led the nation in points and in assists. He can ball. Yeah. And a lot of what happens at this point for players in their trajectory is circumstance. And I see why you're enthusiastic about the situation that Luka Doncic got put into, because hadn't he got drafted, say, by the Kings, I just don't think he's as compatible with the guards they have as he will be with Dennis Smith Jr.
Sure.
Who's a combination guard. He's a budding scorer. At the end of the year, he showed he could be a playmaker. But you know what else he is? He's a terrific athlete. And you know one of the things Doncic isn't? A terrific athlete. He's not the fastest guy, not the highest leaper. And by the way, that don't mean that you're going to be better at basketball because you have those attributes.
You know who also wasn't a terrific athlete?
Larry Bird.
Gentleman right behind me, Larry Bird. yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean it doesn't. But again, when you are drafting someone that you want to be the future of your franchise, athleticism is not something you want to be a weakness.
Correct.
You know, it's like, well, we're going to need athleticism to play in this league.
And so, again, I disagree with you on the fact that the Hawks going to live to regret it. Because one of the things you're underestimating, too, not only did the Mavs get Doncic, they also gave something, too.
They gave Trae Young and a future first, which is protected. We don't know the exact
so
protection.
Say that again. They gave Trae Young and
future first that is protected. I think it's a 21 pick.
Okay. So, in theory, they get 2 cracks added if you the Hawks. Mm-hmm. You get to see what Trae Young is about, and hopefully he lives up to the hype. I believe that he will. Let me make sure I say that into a microphone. I believe that he will, because his skills translate into today's game. Freedom of movement, shoot with unlimited range, and he has a handle. And so I think he's going to find a spot to flourish. But back to your initial point about Doncic being a generational changing player, I don't know about all that.
I never said that. I was about to say that. You know me well.
Okay.
You know me well.
Okay.
I was gonna say that, and then I said, what I said once in a while. I said once in a while. I was about to say, you just know me. You're in my head. I was gonna say generational, and I self-edited and said once in a while.
And for anybody that wants to do this for a profession, just notice now the professional way that you hold down the table and when you're doing a podcast is we talked about this topic for maybe 5 to 7 minutes, and I actually referred something back to what David Jacoby was going to say. And since we've been brothers and partners for 7 years on this program, he didn't even say it.
yes, but I thought.
And I'm calling him on it.
I just thought, you called me out of my thoughts, not even what I said.
And so when you talk about, industry tastemaker, boutique type audience, that's what we hope to give you for the near future and years to come.
Yep. Let's give people what they want.
I'm a one-trick pony. Literally. I show up at kids' parties and act cute. That's pretty much it. So excuse me for being bitter. When Geico says not only could we save you money on car insurance, but we do more. Like give you 24/7 access online, over the phone, or even via our award-winning mobile app. Well, ooh la la. Aren't they multi-talented? Hey, I said organic carrots.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
There's also this news I want to talk to you about. Chris Webber.
Macy.
Shout out.
Jim Harbaugh was on a radio show. He was discussing things. And then Chris Webber came on. And essentially Harbaugh invited Webber to be an honorary captain in a football game. An honor that you had last year? Last year.
I got the JV version. I didn't get a chance to get there earlier. I didn't get a chance to speak to the team. Like Adam Schefter did.
Wait a second. First of all, I love it when you're salty about stuff like this. I love it when you're salty about stuff like this. Yeah. You came out at halftime. That wasn't honorary captain?
It was. First and foremost, I have to stress this. We're talking about the topic because it's a current event.
Sure.
I have to just do this disclaimer, and I never do disclaimers. The only reason why I'm doing a disclaimer is because family's involved.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There actually are individuals that walk the face of the earth to think I'm talking about this or my take is because I'm unhappy with my life and I'm so very bitter. Okay. For those who haven't been paying attention, I'm in a pretty good spot, personally and professionally.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm not bitter at all about anything. C. Webb is my brother. And families fall out. That's just how it goes. And so I love that he and Michigan can finally reunite because we, and I mean coaching staff, I mean the other members of the team, including the Fab Five, and the fans, in theory, we've been treated like the children after a divorce.
Yep.
We just stood on the sideline and watched and see if they were going to reconcile or not.
Yep.
I said for a long time, him coming back to Ann Arbor isn't stopping them from honoring the Fab Five.
No.
Nope.
And I've also said that I felt like he should go back home and show a level of respect to not only the University of Michigan, but to what it has done for all of us. It's bigger than basketball. Like, that's just,
of course.
Hey, I played basketball there 3 years. He played there basketball 22 years. I trust you. He can't take 2 steps without somebody walking up to him being like, go blue.
Of course.
Yep.
Or I remember watching you play in college.
And all of you, every member of that team, not just the Fab Five, even Rob Pelinka, are not where you are today without each other. You know, there aren't people coming up to you saying, I named my son Jalen, if there isn't Juwan Howard or Chris Webber or Ray Jackson.
And Jimmy King.
Like, it's just, and Rob Pelinka's probably not the general manager of the Lakers if there wasn't the Fab Five either. And this isn't, we're all self-made. That's how a team sport works. That's how it works.
Well said. And we took it clearly to another level because our bond is still something that is historic in sports. And I'm elated to see that he's going to be back on campus. I know he's going to be so very appreciated by the fans and for so many that love him and adore him and appreciate his contributions on and off the floor. But if I'm one person, I am doing an SMH.
Why
John Beeline. I'm like, hold on. What just happened here?
Well, I don't know, Chris, but I imagine if you're in his shoes, he's still got some issues with the basketball program because he feels like he was treated unfairly, just like you feel like the Fab Five was treated unfairly with the banners not going up. So maybe he's compartmentalizing, saying, I'll be embraced by the football program, I'll be an honorary football captain, but if you want me to walk in the gym and put my feet on the hardwood, we're going to have a longer conversation about it. Again, I don't know him, but that's kind of what my interpretation of the situation is.
And that's well said. And again, it's truly the first step to unlocking our legacy on campus.
Yep.
Because, and I'll be just real with the audience, is what people underestimate is like, I actually played college basketball well enough to have gotten my number retired.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It didn't get retired in Ann Arbor.
And legacy is important to you. Yep. I know these things are important to you.
Absolutely. And so, why didn't it happen? Do you know why it didn't happen?
Yeah, I have ideas.
What if you were somebody that's well-read as you are, you work with me every day, you're my brother, and you're a student of the game. If you had to answer the question, why isn't Jalen Rose's number retired at Michigan, what would be your answer?
During an investigation into the Fab Five, it was found that Chris Webber was not 100% truthful in his discussion with investigators.
So for somebody who wasn't good enough to get that accomplished in the pros, that isn't going to Basketball Hall of Fame, wouldn't you want that?
Yeah.
If you earned it?
Do you know what this means, Jalen Rose? Strongly worded email from David Jacoby. I got to get back on my grind. Been a while. I'll write a strongly worded email. Who do I address it to?
And so I'm going to keep going because this is going to be the thing that goes, I guess, the cool kids call it viral. So let me continue. And by the way, you ready for this? I don't even want my number retired.
Yes, you do. That's a lie. Reggie, push the that's a lie button. Thank you. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You just said you did.
Let me say it again. That's why I love this program, and my brother's calling me on it with the L and everything. I don't even want my number retired.
I know what you're about to say.
I'm going to tell you what I want.
I know what you're going to say.
Because it ain't even only about me. Because I can't stand there and celebrate my number going in the rafters and another one of my brothers that was a member of the Fab Fives don't go up.
Fab Five banner.
That's awkward.
All five retired, one banner, Fab Five.
There you go. You do a white banner with black in it because we wore black shoes and black socks for those that don't know. You get the school blue in there. You can get the school maize in there too. You can tint it. Okay? And you do two things. You either put the numbers of every player that participated on those teams or whatever you decide to acknowledge in Steve Fisher and the coaching staff's name, or that's the other thing. That's why I'm giving you guys a distinction. There's a distinction between honoring me, the person or the player, honoring the Fab Five as a whole, or honoring the teams. Which it was two separate teams that played in the championship game.
I think I'm honoring the Fab Five. I think I'm going step two. I'm going door number 2.
Okay, so I think that's the first thing I think that has to, I guess, be acknowledged by, people that are going to be in the room that are a lot smarter than me and or, thinking about, so many other things besides what I'm thinking about. And so for me, the true way to do it would be just that. I agree with you. A team is a collection of 15 individuals that all sacrifice for one another. But it's hard to put the numbers of players from the first year and the second year.
Because someone was only there for 1 year. You end up with a long list that just starts to dilute the importance of it. And I think that people remember those teams. Shout to everybody else on those teams. Shout to Steve Fisher. But they remember the 5 of you. That's what the legacy is. But I'll say this is going to happen. I've been around long enough to see that time has a way of not necessarily healing wounds, but it has a way of sort of easing things over. Transgressions in the rearview mirror that get further and further away, they just seem less important as time goes on. But I just don't want to see Jalen Rose, full gray hair, cane, 250, 280 pounds, Jalen Rose. I don't want to see that happen. It's going to happen, but I don't want it I don't want it to be the old timer Fab Five. It's appropriate now.
Or something tragic happened to one of us.
Exactly. I don't even like to say those things, but there's that.
And then it's like, we love them so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Why didn't this happen before?
Yes.
What was keeping this from taking place?
Yeah. We don't need that. We don't need that. It's interesting. I think that this is a step. I think even Chris coming back to the campus, wearing the Michigan colors, being part of the football program celebrations on that day is a step towards the Fab Five being recognized.
A journey starts with a single step, and I'm enthusiastic about it. Again, it's well-deserved. And for people who really don't know, how things played out, I just want them to understand this. Because at some point we started to talk about the truth publicly. That really only happened 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. I want everybody to really pay attention to what's on wax. And it ain't much from 1993 to 2011 that Juwan, Ray, Jimmy, or I had to say about it. Or him publicly, especially negative. Look it up. Somebody prove me wrong. From 93 until the Fab Five documentary, we ain't say nothing.
Nope.
We held it down mob rules, okay? It started to get tricky when the doc came out and he was talking slick about Ed.
Sure. Yep. Well, I'll say this. It'd be so easy to say, Chris, you can come on the show anytime. But here's my offer. No cameras, no microphones. You and Chris break bread. I'll foot the bill. That's my offer. It's because I don't want to manipulate it, because at some point you guys are going to come together and have a discussion. I just don't want it to be on wax.
You know the last time we broke bread?
No.
First off, let me just tell you a couple of things. One, the Fab Five had been in the same place at the same time twice in 25 years.
What?
So it wasn't just about what was happening on the floor and what was happening with the banners. It was also some personal situations brewing within the family.
Of course. There's 5 different people.
Okay? And one of those times was at my charity game in Chicago. I think that was 2002. Had a celebrity weekend. Said the Entertainer, Michael Jordan came to represent, basketball game at the United Center, whole weekend type thing. A lot more people are doing it now, but the only person that was doing it at that time was Magic with his game in L.A.
Yep.
And the next time was at the Final Four when Michigan lost to Louisville. But the difference was we were in the stands, fanning it up, slapping fives with Cassie, and he was in the suite. No shots, I'm just giving facts. And so the reason why that's so, I guess, pronounced is that once the documentary came out, and I'm going back to my initial point, the last time we broke bread was at my loft in Los Angeles to talk about the doc, and he said he was going to be a part of it. And then he didn't do it. So that was another big domino for me personally. Like, Ed was like the family, the past. He taught me how to give. If everybody has ever seen me, like, even when I didn't have, I tried to give. Not to pat myself on the back. It's just what I tried to do. I got that from Ed Martin. That's who taught me that trait.
Shout out.
John McClain and Perry Watson. Those three people are men in my life. And my Uncle Pelmore. Okay, because he's the world's greatest entertainer. Shout out to my Uncle Lynn, too. But, again, so when that happened, it was like the past. And then it was like, wait a minute. I worked there, dog. You can't tell me that you're going to do it. And now I got to go talk to Bill Simmons, Connor Shell, and the people that's doing these documentaries and say, hey, by the way, we're going to do a documentary on the Fab Five. And I know I told you that all 5 guys were going to participate, but it's really only going to be 4 people participating.
That's a difficult conversation to have, especially for a young man with a budding production company that just got a big deal with a huge network that's trying to put a project together. And I know you, and I know you didn't want to have that conversation. I know you did. Obviously, I think it needs to be said that if you ask Chris why he didn't participate, he's got his own reasons. He's got his own explanation. And, that's kind of how life works. But it's going to, we're going to be around here for a long time. You know what I mean? We're going to be here for 50 more years. That's half a century. It's going to happen. Let's get you and Chris together, off wax, and, of course,
it'll go down. It'll go down. But, again, I'm happy to see that he's going to be the captain at the game. I know he's going to be suited and booted. He keep a fresh cut.
I know there's going to be something in the rafters, too. Like, I know it. In my heart, I know it. It's not, you're not going to go the rest of your life without it happening. So let's just do it soon. I'll write a strongly worded email. Just tell me who to write it to.
But seriously, though, I know that, what do you call Coach Harbaugh, who I love dearly?
Kanye West of college football.
He will be the person to make this move. Of
course.
And let me pull a little onion back for everybody. Can I do a little more?
Sure.
Because I want to have fun and laugh. People are so simple. Like, John Harbaugh randomly calls into the radio station when Chris Webber was doing the interview. Do y'all not realize that Chris Webber works in the media and he does 500,000 interviews all of the time? And John Harbaugh is the head coach of a football team that talks to the media all of the time? Look deeper. What station was that?
The local Michigan
M-Zone.
station.
What does the M stand for?
Michigan.
It was not a surprise.
No, it wasn't a surprise. The producers hit a said it was going to happen. And Harbaugh, he keeps his name in people's mouths. That's part of being a college coach in football, basketball. Recruiting is important. So he knows when something's going to make a splash. And he manipulates the media just like LeBron does.
If and when that splash happens, which, again, C. Webber's my brother. I love him. John Harbaugh's the coach of our football team. We all held to the victories. All positive. But you know who we now owe that same level of support to? John Beilein. So it's great that he's going to get honored at the football game, but you know what John Beilein deserves? Us to all be suited and booted at a basketball game in Ann Arbor, yelling at the refs, patting the players on the backside, and cheering for them.
So let me say this. It feels like what you, Jalen Rose, I know you, I've spoken to you about this, I haven't spoken to the other guys. I know you want to be recognized by the program as the Fab Five, right? That's what you want. And I'm sure that they would like all of you to be suited and booted in support. But instead of you waiting to be recognized to support, you should just go ahead and support first as hard as you can and extend the first olive branch to get what you want eventually.
Also,
take the high road.
In ride or die for C. Webb, when I left Michigan, I ain't go back either for 15 years.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, that says a lot right there.
So like, I think like it gets twisted. I had a scholarship endowment at Michigan and still wasn't going back.
Nope. Says a lot.
Okay. So like, time does heal all wounds. I'm enthusiastic that he's going to be there. It's going to be a great look to see him trending.
Yep.
And the football program trending. And I just hope now that this fast forwards the relationship and starts to mend all fences.
It's not going to solve everything, but it's a step in the right direction. Like you said, a journey starts with a single step, and more steps like this will be helpful. But the banner's going to go up. I'm going to write a strongly worded email. I'm not kidding. I'm going to actually do it. I just don't know who to write it to. You got to tell me who to write it to.
All right, I got you.
All right. Carmelo Anthony has opted in to his final year of his contract with the Thunder. He's going to make $27.9 million. A lot of people are vocal about how he's not worth that in the open market. How did he respond to them? By posting these pictures on social media of him drinking wine, enjoying life, subtweeting all of his critics. Jalen, what does him opting in and him with these tweets tell you about where his head is at?
Well, the opting in and the tweets are two different things that kind of meet at a summit. The tweets are basically on his Ashy Larry, I'm rich. Mm-hmm. So y'all can't say anything about me. I'm living my best life. I can buy anything I want to buy. I'm set for life.
He's addressing the critics without addressing the critics.
That's one side of it. But the thing that won't silence the critics is your money. And what people are criticizing him for is they feel like that a player that got drafted in the same draft class as LeBron James and Dwayne Wade has probably been on par with their NBA contracts. Mm-hmm. But has yet to be able to lead a basketball team consistently and successfully toward championship glory.
You never want to be in a position when you opt into a year of a contract with the front office of that franchise. It's like, you know, like when they got the news, it's like, we're going to have to pay him that $28 million.
But here's a distinction I want to paint for people. How about when you get drafted in the same class as LeBron, and he declines his $35 million option, and they like, what can we do to get him to sign? And then your Carmelo, you opt into your $29 million, and they respond the way you did. It's really fascinating how that works in sports.
Well, it also seems like while we're talking about the Thunder, that Paul George was a shoo-in to be a Laker. You know, remember when he was on the Pacers, he told the Pacers, I want to be a Laker, and they trade him to the Thunder, and we're just like, well, he's going to spend a year in a Thunder uniform, we'll forget that year, he's going to be in the Lakers. Seems like, from what I'm reading in reports and hearing from people, that it's not a shoo-in that he's going to end up on the Los Angeles Lakers. Do you think he would re-sign with the Thunder this year?
It was all good just a week ago. Again, and this is why, as management, you got to own your space as it relates to decision-making and try to create an identity and understand the people that you're bringing to your organization. Mm-hmm. The Thunder saw Paul George and was like, we feel like once he become a part of our culture, he's going to like it here. And he's going to like playing alongside Russell. We believe we could trade for him without any guarantees because not only do we think we could convince him to stay, we have his 5th year, which is worth about $40 million.
Yep.
And if he decides to leave and he wants that 5th year, at least we can sign and trade him. Mm-hmm. That's the part that people always forget about.
Sign and trade.
As it relates to like what's happening with Kawhi right now. If Kyrie Irving didn't like getting traded to Boston, we'd be like, oh, they traded him somewhere that he didn't want to be.
Of course. If you look at Chris Paul last year, he didn't just as a free agent sign with Houston. He opted in, was a Clipper, and then they traded for him.
And so for Carmelo and now Paul George, I think he ultimately stays in OKC.
And if you are that team, you can look at their playoff performance and say, ooh, they got beat by the Jazz. And you could say that was a failure or whatever. But you could also say they were pretty close, and Robertson got hurt. And he was a key part of their defense they struggled with after he got hurt. You can convince yourself that this is a successful team that's going to be hard out in the playoffs.
Well, here's the convincing that you want to see Carmelo Anthony embrace a new role. I don't think that he's a starter on a contending team anymore. I do think he could play quality minutes, come in, be a heat check type of player, be a great vet on the floor.
Look at Dirk.
Settle down the game.
Look at Dirk.
And no doubt about it, and be great in the locker room because he has a wealth of knowledge and experience to share with younger players and peers.
We also have an update on LeBron James' free agency from Ramona Shelburne. Shout out to Momo. She said that LeBron James wants the NBA teams to save their time. Don't put together a PowerPoint presentation. You don't have to make a video tribute to me. We're not going to have some big fancy meeting with the conference room and everything. LeBron and his team, they're familiar with what's going on in the National Basketball Association. They know what you have and where you are and where you're headed. So they don't want big elaborate meetings and pitches from these teams. They're going to have short conversations and then they're going to make their decision. What does that tell you about the future of LeBron James?
That LeBron James has a lot of things that he's said and done that players have followed. I want players, superstar level players, to follow this.
Remember Durant and the Hamptons?
Because let me tell you what happens when one of the elite players in the game takes multiple meetings with other teams. It shows us really deep down, if it gets tough, you ain't 1,000% invested or committed. Because you're taking too many meetings. That's what that tells me. And so for LeBron, he doesn't need to be celebrated and wooed about making his basketball decision. You're not about to get him on campus and make him sign a contract or a letter of intent.
It's not going to happen. And what it tells me as the media guy in the room is what happened is the coverage we cover so much minutia that the meeting becomes a 3-day storyline. And we get details of the meeting, they're leaked by some front office people, and it becomes more of a show. The meetings become a show. The meetings become part of the process when really what he wants to do, and he's done the decision wrong in the past, and he'll admit that, he wants to keep it low key. You know, and just like not have people talk about it. He's sneaking around to private schools in different cities, and he doesn't want people to talk about it. He just wants to have the decision and then announce it. However, there is also some news from Brian Windhurst, who's very tapped into LeBron James' thinking. He says it is down to the Lakers and the Cavs. Considering that the Lakers are obviously in the Western Conference, which team gives him a better chance at success in the immediate future?
On paper, anytime you pair it with Paul George, that would be the answer.
Or another max player in that spot.
But here's what I want people to also not underestimate. If LeBron James comes back, that ain't going to be the roster.
To the Cavs.
In Cleveland. I don't care what they got to do to shed those salaries.
I want to hear this because some of the toughest salaries they have are clutch sports people like J.R. Smith and Tristan Thompson, and they've got Kevin Love there. They said they want to keep Kevin Love. How do they change that? They can't sign anybody.
Rich Paul is like, little bro, let me tell you something.
Okay.
Hey, Tristan, I got you paid. And you dating a Kardashian. You won in your world. Hey, JR, I got you paid. You was walking around with your shirt off for a few days. You know why? Because y'all both won championships. I did my job.
And before those people got paid, LeBron didn't sign up to play for the Cavaliers.
And so those guys are savvy enough to understand that the Cavs thing ain't forever.
So if he signs with the Cavs, which I think you think LeBron is going to do, there will be drastic overhaul to the roster.
Of course. And not only do I think he resigns, I think he does a one-and-one deal. I just don't see. I can name 500 reasons, but let me tell you one reason I don't believe he's gonna leave. His son's in 8th grade, and for any parents out there, and you're trying to decide where your youngster's going to go to school, you usually like to do that after elementary and after middle school.
Of course, when you're naturally going to go to a new school anyway, it's an easier transition to go to a new school in a different city.
Correct. So it's a lot different taking your son out between 7th and 8th grade versus 8th and 9th grade.
Podcasting is very important. And I know that you're listening to this, so you listen to podcasts. And here at ESPN, we want to give the people what they want, just like the Jalen and Jacoby show. But we have a big favor to ask of you, and it's going to make your podcast experience with ESPN better. It won't take up too much of your time. All you have to do is go to ESPNPodcastStudy.com. It's a very short, anonymous survey. That's it. Go to ESPNPodcastStudy.com. Give us some information so we can make your podcast listening experience at ESPN better. You listen to Jalen and Jacoby. We always say we give the people what they want. Let us know what you want by going to ESPNPodcastStudy.com. Finally, we're a few days removed from the NBA draft, but let's not forget who went number 1 in last year's NBA draft, a gentleman by the name of Markelle Fultz. You haven't seen him play too much basketball, but now we've got some video of him dribbling, spinning around, finishing, looking pretty good in some of these. And Jalen Rose, we also have this quote from a trainer he's working with, Drew Hanlon. Said, with Markelle, obviously he has one of the most documented cases of kind of the yips of basketball in recent years, where he completely forgot how to shoot and had multiple hitches in his shot. Jalen, what do you expect from Markelle Fultz next year? Because this can go one of two ways, and I believe it will drastically go in one of those two ways.
So please save this clip, because I've said something that I think went over a lot of people's heads as it relates to Markelle Fultz, the player. At the end of the season, I'm watching basketball, got the remote control in my hand. He was out there balling, and he had a triple-double in the game. And then I was watching the playoffs, and he was getting DNPs.
And they were trying everything, too.
And I literally went on TV multiple times like, he should be playing. From what I saw from him, he should be getting minutes. I ain't saying he's going to be one of the greatest players of all time. But what I am saying is he showed me he can ball in the league. So I don't know. Well, I did discuss some of the things that were kind of issues between he and the team is that he was, you notice who's speaking for him, his trainer. I would deem that that's probably the same person that was adjusting his jumper. The team didn't like that. We talked about in this program. Brett Brown came out. He'll be able to play when he's able to make a shot. He distanced himself. Had a triple-double, got DNPs in the playoffs. So I see a guy that has what it takes to perform at an NBA level, and I think he's going to have a good season next year.
See, that's the difference between me and you. You always go positive. I always go negative. I don't know if Markelle Fultz is going to be what we all expected Markelle Fultz to be. We have to be honest, we love our new segment, Cultural or Regional. But we'll never forget Soft Mover Boston. A woman was at a Rite Aid in Beverly Hills. I don't know what she was doing, but somehow she got arrested for trespassing at Rite Aid. I don't know how that works. But even better than that, when the police asked her who she was, she gave Rihanna's government name, Robin Rihanna Fenty. And then, when they asked follow-up questions like, oh, really? What's your birthday? Gave the appropriate birthday, which takes forethought. Got the year wrong, though. But it's not like the cop knew what year Rihanna was born in. Soft move or boss move, telling the police that you're Rihanna.
It's a boss move.
It's a boss move. It's about just knowing her birthday.
And the reason why it is because you're thinking that they won't know her government name. The problem is when you say the full name, it gives it away.
Yeah, she said Robin Fenty.
So I'm pretty sure she left that part out. And you got to go with somebody that's famous that you know their birthday. She's clearly a fan of theirs.
She's got to be a big fan. I don't know anybody's birthday. I'd have to struggle to think of my kid's birthday.
Absolutely. So I think that's a boss move.
Boss move. Hundreds of Iranian fans spent hours overnight outside the hotel of Ronaldo, the Portuguese footballing star. Just chanting, making noise to try to keep him from sleeping. If for the Iranian fans, distracting Ronaldo while he's trying to sleep, is that a soft move or a boss move?
That's an ultimate boss move.
Really?
Yes. I've been affiliated with sports my entire life. And maybe I should do a story time on some of those instances where the fans try to distract the players from being as prepared as possible. And even if that means calling your hotel room, don't you realize there's a reason why people use aliases? Because people will heckle you.
Do you think a fan has ever tried to keep you up late before a game, perhaps a female fan?
Of course, it happens all of the time. And I'm going to introduce NBA players to what that's called. It's called special invited guest.
Oh.
The night before the game when you get to town and the flyers are out. And you're like, wait a minute, how did I get my name on this flyer? They ain't even paying me. They're like, where the party at again?
But you end up going anyway.
Where is that? Oh, okay. We'll see if we can get a free bottle at least. They got a name on the flyer.
Jalen, that's a soft move. But I would have definitely fell for it if I was rich and I was 23 years old.
Before I interrupt your fine proceedings, I just saw that promote. Can I just say this?
Darrell Revis.
Dear NBA, Adam Silver, this is your favorite program. You know how much we love you. You're the best GM. You're the best.
Whenever Jalen compliments you, you know what's coming up next.
But we can't continue to have the awards for the regular season be announced 10 weeks after the regular season.
Especially when we already know who won.
It just makes everybody look foolish.
Yep.
This should happen right after the regular season ends because it's a regular season award.
I understand.
When you're doing it on the 25th of June, everybody tomorrow is going to be debating about why somebody voted for
We're not going to be
who.
debating it. We're not going to be debating it whatsoever. Moving on. Spurs lifer Bruce Bowen had this to say about the Kawhi Leonard saga. Quote, look here, you got $18 million this year, and you think that they're trying to rush you? You didn't play, for the most part, a full season this year, and you're the go-to guy, you're the franchise, and you want to say that they didn't have your best interest at heart? Are you kidding me? What do you think Bruce is doing here?
Loyal to the organization. And the one thing I said this about Memphis, it showed me something about the character of their organization when they retired Zebo number and Tony Allen's number. I was like, they appreciate the fact that they ushered in grit and grind, and though their numbers aren't the most gaudy, they show, but Zebo got some double-doubles, but in particular Tony Allen. But the point is, they show how much they meant to their organization by doing that. The Spurs did that in a different way, in my opinion, for Bruce Bowen. Lockdown defender, first, second, all-team, all that. And that's my man, 50 grand, by the way.
Whenever Jalen compliments somebody.
No, that's my man. And he a three-time champion. But it showed me a level of loyalty that the organization has to him and to Avery. You know that Tim and David's number is going to be retired. But I bring that up is, ultimately, if he had to choose a side, he's choosing the Spurs.
Of course. But if I'm the Spurs, I'm like, Bruce, we're trying to fix this. Okay, Bruce? We're trying to fix this, Bruce. So I appreciate you having our back and everything, but we're now talking to Kawhi and his people, and we're trying to fix this. So keep your comments to yourself, okay? Moving on. Vlade Divac.
Vlade Dottie.
Said the Kings have a super team. The Kings have a future super team. Here are some of the assets that they have, some of the makings of this future super team. Marvin Bagley, Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox, Willie Cauley-Stein, Scott Labissiere, and Justin Jackson. Jalen Rose, is that a super team?
Hold on.
Is that a super team?
Hold on.
Is that a super team?
Who said what?
Vlade Divac said that the Kings have a young super team.
It's a failed test. Get Adam Silver on the phone. I don't even want to talk about sports no more.
Well, you are going to want to talk about sports because this next topic is something that we both have strong passion for. It's a combination of Lance Stephenson and the legend, Larry Bird. Lance was out and about over the weekend, and he posted this picture of himself wearing a Larry Bird jersey.
Dope.
With the caption, salute to the GOAT that drafted me, Larry Legend. Both you and Lance owe Larry Bird your careers. Really. I love this one so much, but not as much as I love this next topic. The internet is undefeated.
Shout to Legend.
And it can unearth things about you that you didn't even know yourself. And we found out over the weekend that Trae Young has ornithophobia, or fear of birds. He was drafted by the Mavs and then traded to where?
The Atlanta Hawks.
He's scared of birds, Jalen Rose. Is this a bad sign for Trae Young's career?
So let me tell you how it works when you're a talent and you get to work with amazing producers like David Jacoby.
And the rest of the
staff. And you're ushered in by a boss that's over your right shoulder called the Podfather.
Bill Simmons.
When we go into the studio and we cook and then we leave out of the room, whoever says it first is theirs. But the great thing about our team, we all continue to use those words anyway because we don't care.
Sure.
I appreciate him turning me on to pre-agency. That's what Kawhi's exercising right now.
Mm-hmm. What's
with the San Antonio Spurs?
Scared of birds?
Because you just turned me on to anyctophobia.
A what?
Anyctophobia?
A what?
Whatever it's called. So you're doing two things that I appreciate, which I brought this up. Number one, you're teaching me a word.
Mm-hmm. That you're using it correctly already. I don't know if it makes you sound smart when you use it like that.
Number two, you gave me a fact on Trae Young.
Uh-huh.
And number three, y'all can both watch me do both of them get up. And I'm going to claim it like it's mine.
We always say we give the people what they want. The way we know what the people want is because we have our ear. We listen to the people. We include the people's voice every single day in our podcast via voicemail. If you call 985-80-JALEN, you can leave us a voicemail. If you leave us a voicemail, we'll play it on the show just like this.
What's good to the whole J&J Nation? This is your boy Kobe calling from New York. I called last week, started the conversation on Spades, and I want to give a big shout out first to Reg, because I want to get on the show, but also to my girl Asia out in Colorado, who informed the whole J&J Nation that Spades is in fact not cultural, right? Everybody's getting down on Spades. So I would love to hear from Asia, pull us behind the curtain of your Spades experience, because I'm curious to know if when you and your family get down on Spades, it's the same level of intensity as when some others of us that play Spades. I'm talking about the talking across the board, the arguing, the The disowning friends. Does that happen? The same way it happens when me and my people play? So please, Asia, get back at us. Let us know. Now, I do have another regional versus cultural. Might be universal. Curious to find out. Hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer. Is that universal, regional, or cultural? You know, I recently had a son, and my child's mother, she bought some hand sanitizer, and we've had the same bottle in the house for the past 8 months. Whenever people come over, she ain't telling them to get the hand sanitizer. She's saying, go wash your hands. So I'm curious to know. Hand sanitizer, universal, regional, cultural.
There's a lot.
Let us know. Love the whole J&J fam. Hope to hear from y'all. Be good.
Big shout to Kobe. Sometimes Reggie gets favorite callers. I can feel already that Kobe is one of Reggie's favorite callers. There's a lot going on. First of all, shout to Asia. Spades is not cultural. Second of all, I do want to talk about what goes on during a Spades game over the table. Is rarely have I seen a competitive environment in which you don't get mad at the other team, you just get mad at your own team. It really just leads to tension between teammates, you know? And you can tell early on if it's not going to go well. Like, I just feel like sometimes just quitting halfway through and being like, this ain't going to work. You know, this is not going to work. Another thing I want to say about Spades, and I've said it before, I've got the cheat for Spades. It's one of the reasons I don't like to play. Jalen, if you're on my team and you're about to throw the lead card, I start my sentence with the letter of the suit that I want you to lead with. Have you seen the Power promo? Certain times I haven't. David is actually my real name, but everybody calls me Jacoby.
What?
Hearts, spades, diamonds, clubs. I forgot the other one.
I was about to say, like, you done forgot your own cheat code.
No, it's all basically the letter of the suit that you want, you start the sentence with. It works every single time. So if I really want you to throw a spade, right, I'll just say, you know, say something, Jalen. And you know the S is at the beginning of the sentence, and that's what I want you to throw. And everybody's got their own little cheats about it, and I can always tell when people are cheating. I feel like there's a lot of cheating in Spades that goes unspoken about.
Can I tell you what's funny? I was taking notes for the caller because we respect those who take their time and energy to support our program. And make sure you at the folks at ESPN and tell them how much you love the program.
Shout out.
Post it on Reddit, social media, holla at us.
I'm on the Reddit every day.
So I wrote down a couple of notes that he said. He was like arguing.
Mm-hmm.
And look what I put at the bottom that I was going to refer to.
Cheating. It's one of the things, it's impossible to track. But people cheat at Spades. I cheated Spades. And it got to the point where I felt like Spades became this like dirty game that no one's playing right.
But here's the two fun things about Spades. One, we waste a lot of time and energy on frivolous stuff all day. Sure. You don't even realize what you're wasting time on.
The foundation of this program is frivolous stuff.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, you don't want to do it and play Spades. If you think somebody don't know how to play, you don't want to play with them at all.
No.
You like, I'm good. Like, they start reneging, they start underbidding, they start playing out of turn, they start not having a strategy to the game. It's the second time around, and you already throwing out a queen when you know the king's still out there. That type of stuff.
And you look back at what people did, it's all right there. You know what I mean? It's all right there in front of you. But sometimes in like 4 books later, you're like, wait a second, you had the ace? You had the ace when I led with that, and you didn't play it then? You have it now? Like, what's going through your head?
Right.
There's levels to it. It's like pickup basketball. Sometimes I'm the best player in the court. Sometimes I don't even belong on the court. I feel bad about myself. I need to leave. But like, there's been Spades tables I've been at where I felt like I was in control, and there's certainly been Spades tables where everyone's mad at me, and they got every reason to be mad at me, and I feel terrible about it.
But ultimately, you got to play your hand.
Is hand sanitizer cultural or regional?
I say this respectfully. On Get Up, I sit next to Mike Greenberg every day. Mm-hmm. And he has a bottle of hand sanitizer that's about as tall as this microphone.
You got the Costco? You got the Kirkland hand sanitizer?
And it has tape around it with his name on it, so won't nobody else mess with it.
Wait. He doesn't let other people use his hand sanitizer.
It has tape around it and everything. And it has his name on it. It sits right next to him.
Cultural.
So I'm living off experience like the locks. This has to be cultural.
I think it's cultural. And one thing I want to say about cultural versus regional, cultural or regional, our favorite news segment, there's also, for the real heads, there's 3 more categories too. There's universal, personal, and medicinal. It's just too long to say.
Yep, medicinal.
So we say we give the people what they want. We don't just take voicemails. We also open up our Twitter feed, which is at Jalen and Jacoby. And when this is something I've been thinking about, Jalen Rose. Everyone just wants to focus on Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and LeBron James. Chris Paul. But there are other very impactful free agents on the market. So we asked our intelligent, responsible Twitter followers, who are free agents that could swing a franchise that no one's talking about? Clint Capella is what Swayze Jazzy said. And I think that one's interesting. Dominic also said Trevor Ariza. The Rockets have some decisions to make. Because if you watched Rockets not just last year in the playoffs, but the regular season, those 2 players were cornerstones of what they wanted to do defensively especially, but also offensively, especially in Capella's case.
If you're the Houston Rockets, you got to keep Capella. He played really well in 1 year and developed so much. This year's draft...
Nene, you can't start Nene.
Not at all. This year's draft, people were trying to figure out who was his next version. Like, that's how fast this mushroomed. And, again, I talk about skill bigs all of the time. Anthony Davis, Karl Anthony Towns, Boogie Cousins. And then a 6'7" one in Draymond Green. And then you talk about the wheel guys like Steven Adams, DeAndre Jordan. And so as I look at Clint Capella, and I said this about Andre Drummond, he could go either way. Because he competes well enough defensively and he rebounds at an enormous rate. Plus, he can actually catch and finish and make a move with the ball. He's not like a lurch out there or stiff. So,
if I'm his agent, I'm saying, listen, I know they're offering you more money in these other places, but you're going to stay in Houston because at these other places, they're going to ask more of you. And they don't have Chris Paul and James Harden, 2 of the best drivers and kickers and lob passers in the business. Stay here. I know it's going to cost you a little bit of money in the short term, but stay here and you're going to make more money in the long term.
Absolutely. And that's why all good situations, while predicated on winning and you're trying to get top dollar, you got to think long term. And things happen behind the scenes that fans don't see, like the development of a player. And I know how much John Lucas has put into helping him develop. The time and energy working on his hooks, his finishing, his free throws. And so not only do you leave the money on the table, you want to continue to get that nurturing the fans don't see. And so I think he ends up there. I think based on what Trevor Ariza has accomplished at this point of his career, they lose him.
I think so too.
I think he goes somewhere for a shorter deal, same amount of money probably, but puts himself in a position to where when he jumps on the roster, you're like, oh, he with them? Like, oh, okay. Like, I see him jumping on a squad like the Spurs. I'm just going to throw that out there like, boom. And it's like, oh, okay, he running with them? Got it. He going to be a problem. So that's what I see. And speaking of San Antonio, something just came to me. I just want to put this on wax too.
And we putting it on wax.
I would think that Pop's probably going to coach another 2 seasons. And though he's doing a terrific job at Alabama, if I'm San Antonio, I make sure Avery Johnson is his replacement when he decides to retire.
I love that.
I'm not saying it to a microphone that Avery Johnson is pursuing a job.
Nope.
I'm saying that if I'm the San Antonio Spurs and I'm planning on the exit of Pop eventually, the person I think and I would have as his replacement is Avery Johnson.
I love that. I also want to give a shout out to Noah. Noah gave us a list of free agents that he thinks are sneaky difference makers. Will Barton, Dante Exum, Mike Scott, Joe Harris, Thad Young. I want to focus on Will Barton because he's one of the Jacoby favorites. I love Will Barton. I really do. And I want to see him get more shine.
I do too. Handle, play make. He is fearless out there. He's like I respectfully say, He's slinky out there.
Yeah, he's stronger than he looks, too.
Yeah.
Like, he's so skinny that people kind of look at him like he can get pushed around, but he can't. He plays defense.
And I appreciate when I was at a Nuggets game or whatnot, he made sure that he was like, real recognized, real came up and gave Dap all of that.
Oh, now I like him even more. Yep. Finally, we have this. A lot of people made the same joke, but Brian Alexander gets credit for it.
Okay.
Jalen Rose, free agent. You're not affiliated with a team. You're not under contract. You're not retired. You can make a difference, you know?
Here's what a team could sign me to do. Be a salary dump. You know, just pick me up and put me in one of those deals where you're trying to move players from point A to point B that you didn't think could move. All of a sudden, it looks a little bit easier to trade Nicholas Batum because you're paying me $7.
And you always, when you said real, recognize real, have to shout out Gangsta Gibbs. Gary Indiana's, Freddie Gibbs. He's got a new project out. Shout to him. Shout to Lambo. Shout out.
Gibbs is the homie.
Yes. What's he have, Jalen Rose?
Bars!
If you're not familiar with Freddie Gibbs, first of all, you should be. I'm surprised you're listening to this program. You're not familiar with Freddie Gibbs. Yep. But he's got bars. Yep. Listen to his new project.
The last time I saw him was at the Podfather's crib. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like when you're around a comedian, it just when they speak, it automatically becomes funny because they have an audience and they're really trying material a lot of times too.
You're used to laughing at them. Like Will Ferrell could, like, I could be in a hostage situation and Will Ferrell could be like, run that way. I'd be like, ah!
That's how it was with Gangsta Gibbs. He just was rhyming.
I love Gangsta.
I was like, keep going.
He's underrated. He's an underrated rapper, one of those guys that it's like he's going to have some hit song, and then everyone's going to be like, oh, Freddie Gibbs, like a young, rising superstar. Like, no, he's been doing this for a decade. Yeah.
And shout out to Meek Millie.
Shout out.
I appreciate, his performance and his record at the BET Awards. Shout out to Jamie Foxx, did a terrific job, all of the winners. But I have to say this. I remember a time on this program, maybe like a year or so ago, and when he and Drake were going back and forth about their disagreement or whatnot, and being fans of both of them, I made sure I kept saying into the microphone, you guys can pick the winner all y'all want, but Meek Millie got bars.
Yes.
So don't get it twisted. And so, of course, a lot has transpired in his life over the past 12 months, and I'm not going to try to do a litany of the things that have changed in his life over the past 12 months. But what I will say is I'm really enthusiastic to see people now embracing him the way I've always embraced him as a fan of his music.
I want to thank everybody that called in, 98580-JALEN. I want to thank everybody that tweeted. We'll be back tomorrow. Why is that, KRS?
Done. We're not done. We're not got to give the people time. Give people what they want.
They my little guys. I love them.